imagine that they will continue to drive up the average revenue per user as much as they can through a combination of advertising and subscription. Part of that will be raising subscription prices. Now they're trying to charge you a profit and you don't like it. That's capitalism. It's how much content costs to distribute to a consumer.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Make That Make Sense, the game show that breaks down the weekly stories shaping the business of media. If you were into the business of media, which I'm assuming you are since you're watching this, you're going to really like today's guest. He's actually known as the unofficial media cartographer. Who is that? Well, today we're going to have on Evan Shapiro. Evan is the owner and cartographer of eShap, a big media insight and media production company. He is also an adjunct media professor at NYU and Fordham Business Schools. In prior roles, Evan was the executive vice president at NBC Universal, as well as the president of IFC and Sundance TV. Also want to point out that coming in January, Evan and his colleague Marianne Renchette are starting a new media podcast called The Media Odyssey, where they'll be discussing the hottest media topics and giving their hottest takes. So be sure to tune into that. All right, let's have him on the show. Evan, a pleasure to have you on Make That Make Sense. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Really excited to have you. I mean, if you're scrolling on LinkedIn and you're in anything interested in the media world, you probably know Evan's work. So this should be a really good time to provide your insights. Should we get to the rules really quickly?
Sure. Thank you for that. And yes.
So on Make That Make Sense, we go through one headline, one tweet, and one deal in 15 minutes. Each section, meaning the headline, deal, and tweet, will last 3.5 minutes. You'll then have 1 minute to answer both trivia questions, and all topics are from the last 10 days. All right, should we get to our headline?
Yes.
This was a big topic of 2024 in the streaming world. We saw a huge growth in interactive ads, and also a lot of these streaming services, which used to be ad-free, now have cheaper ad-supported tiers. Let's look at this from a macro perspective. Do you think that the ad volume that we saw this year in streaming will continue to grow, as this headline says? And do you think it will eventually reach the levels of traditional cable TV?
Two things. One, ads didn't take over streaming this year. Ads were presented inside streaming for the first time for many platforms, on Netflix, on Amazon, I think also newish to Disney Plus as well. But ads didn't appear in that many more places in front of people's eyes. So I did a study around this last year with ComScore, and it demonstrated that most of the ad impressions being generated, 87% of ad impressions being generated on TV, was coming from cable and broadcast. Only 13 and a little bit more percent was coming from streaming. And that's because these ad platforms, even though they are all selling ads onto the premium streamers right now, their reach on their ad tier is still not that great. The inventory on the platforms is not that great because they don't have the rights to sell inside every program. So they have to sell top and tail, and it's not just the inventory is less. And they're just starting out and selling it. So A, I think this is a bit of a kind of misdirect. And then B, yeah, they're just getting started. I mean, Netflix will get better at ad sales. Amazon will get better at ad sales. They will sell more inventory. The flip side of this is, if you look at streaming and you look at FAST, Tubi has had a great year. And yes, that is ad supported. And so their growth this year in particular, I think, especially on television, has been significant enough to say, okay, yes, ads are getting more and more into streaming. But then when you look at YouTube and the fact that YouTube is now watched for 1 billion hours per day on TV, not 1 billion hours per day in total, 1 billion hours per day on television alone, right? So yes, ads and streaming, that's the biggest ad video platform on the face of the earth. And so I don't think we're anywhere near the peak of streaming ads. But I also think it's really crucial when you read headlines like this to understand what the realities of the streaming economics are. And when you talk about ads in streaming, yes, Fast has some, and there's other AVODs and SVODs that have them, but nothing matches YouTube.
Well, I feel like that was the premise I was going into for the show of really trying to break down the headlines and from an expert like yourself of, there's more nuance to this headline that it probably gives off. From a consumer angle, do you think, once the streaming services have more ad inventory and they get better at it, do you think they're going to risk upsetting consumers with too many ads in the same way that cable did, or do you think that won't be an issue for them?
I think you do. I mean, the product fit should match the environment, and so people watch a lot of ads in sports every week. And so I do think that there's a perfect contextual balance to the number of ads and the content you're watching per minute or per scene or per episode, depending on how you look at it. I think streaming is far less likely to do that. The odd thing is it's being handled so poorly so far. That is the other part of this headline is one of the reasons why streaming isn't further along in their ad sales progress writ large. Hulu's crushing it. By the way, Tubi is crushing it. There are others that are crushing it as well. But not everybody is. Is that it's relatively new days, but also the experience sucks.
Hmm.
You see an ad on Fast very often. You'll be watching, and in the middle of a scene, an ad will roll, and it's just really ruins the experience. Or worse, you'll watch something on Hulu, and this has been my experience, and the same ad will play 6 times. Who's that good for? Who's that helping? It's not helping the consumer. I don't think it's helping the brand, and I really don't think it's helping the platform. So, yeah, again, yeah, advertising is everywhere, but it has streaming ads on TV in particular have so far to go to be perfected and to really truly compete with the social video that is dominant, not just on mobile, but also on television screen with YouTube, like I talked
Hmm.
about.
Very interesting. Should we go to our tweet?
Yes.
All right. So we have obviously a Twitter user who is very upset by the YouTube TV price increase again, alongside many others. If we think back to 2017, when YouTube TV was at something like $35 a month, and that was the alternative to, $200 a month for cable TV, that sounded like a great deal. Do you agree with this guy that YouTube TV prices are just going to continue to go up from here?
Yes. I mean, they're going to continue to go up because they're going to continue to offer you more service. I do think if they're smart, and they are, I think they'll start to repackage the subscriptions. If you look at the New York Times subscription packages, and there are many of them, I do think you're going to start to see pay TV begin to be broken up that way, and have more flexibility and optionality in particular. YouTube TV, you would think, would be one of those things, and to a certain extent it is. So you can combine it with NFL Sunday Ticket, or you can divorce it from NFL Sunday Ticket. If you combine them together, you get a better deal on both. I don't know how much they package in, and I'm embarrassed, since I'm such a big proponent of their platform, to not know how well they bundle together YouTube Premium, YouTube TV, and the rest of their paid products.
Hmm.
But they have 100 million subscribers worldwide. So, I would imagine that they will continue to drive up the average revenue per user as much as they can through a combination of advertising and subscription. Part of that will be raising subscription prices. Part of this question, though, is kind of naive. Isn't it just they're one of those corrupt companies? There's one of those corrupt companies that want to make a profit off of the product that they're selling you at a loss right now so that they can gain you as a customer.
Yeah.
So they sold it to you at a loss or at break even so that you would climb on board. And now they're trying to charge you a profit and you don't like it. That's capitalism. You don't have to keep subscribing. That doesn't mean they're an enemy. and that they're corrupt, that they're just trying to be profitable. And so, yeah, this is how much content costs to distribute to a consumer. And as they continue to invest in premium and sports, yes, I do think you'll see
Well,
their costs go up.
let's say somebody who's not an expert in media and they say, okay, all I've been reading is that content is cheaper to produce than ever, right? So why should all of a sudden be more expensive to distribute content, like you said for YouTube? How do you figure that between it? It's a low distribution cost to record and produce
They're
content.
paying billions of dollars for the NFL. Um, you know, the when you look at uh, um, the cost, so specifically on YouTube TV, which is what this tweeter, this
Yeah.
Xer, is saying, that comes with inherent programming costs.
Mm,
So for every home that YouTube delivers YouTube TV, which is a paid premium cable, it's a cable product. They have to pay Disney X number of dollars for ESPN. They have to pay Turner X number of dollars for CNN. They have to pay Fox X number of dollars for Fox News and Fox. And they also have to pay for CBS and ABC and NBC as well. And so those are all costs. The more channels that are on there, the higher their costs are. At $73, I don't understand how YouTube TV is profitable. I don't think it, I can't imagine it is.
hmm
And so at $83, maybe it is. I would argue that they're probably still near break even. I think it depends. I would have to look at the channel lineup. I don't have YouTube TV. But their programming costs are astronomical, billions of dollars a year. So that's what I mean by it.
Well, it might be tough luck for this user, but again, as you said, it's
No
capitalism.
one
They
is
can.
forcing him to subscribe. That's exactly right.
Exactly.
You
All
can
right.
cancel.
Should we go to our deal?
Yeah.
So, Squid Game season one was a massive
This was great.
success, and now we have Squid Game season two coming out. And at a high level, this partnership makes sense, right? You have data that came in that there was a 40% increase in people that wanted to learn Korean after Squid Game season one. You obviously have Duolingo, who's a language learning platform. What is this type of partnership for you who looks at the media business all the time say about the future of kind of interactive ad or marketing placements within these type of shows?
I think this I think this is a really brilliant. I don't I have to admit to not knowing where this deal started and where the transaction part of this relationship comes from. But I imagine it's some sort of licensing advertising deal that Duolingo is expressing through Netflix. But when you look at the true nature of the relationship, it's more akin to a lot of the marketing tie-ins that Barbie did. Barbie was probably the greatest partnership marketing initiative in the history of entertainment.
Yeah.
It was really remarkable. And by the way, that's a high bar. When you look at the James Bonds of the world, and there are lots of others as well, there's been some really terrific tie-ins between specifically big tentpole films and mar- any number of different products. But Barbie is a world class above everybody else. I thought this was another. I think this is another one of those where, in this case, though, I imagine that Netflix got money to express impressions on the platform when the show comes back. And boy, the music video is just amazing, just
Mm.
so good, and it's it makes its own sauce, as a friend of mine, Kent Reese, would say, and it's really brilliant marketing, and I think terrific ad sales as well. If I'm reading the situation correctly, and by the way, I'm very critical of Netflix's ad sales operation because I don't think that they've done a very good job in launching.
Mm.
But I think if this is the partnership that I think it is, kudos. Really amazing work.
So now we'll get a little more experimental. Maybe you can go into the marketing shoes. If you had to look forward to 2025 and say, I want to do this type of partnership between one company and one show, what would it be?
One company and one show.
So, for example,
Uh,
This would be it would be like The
Yeah, no, I
Sopranos
get it.
and yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I'm just trying to think of what I would pair. You know what? To be honest with you, I'm gonna take that and twist it around. I think this is a really so the reason why I think this works incredibly well, this deal between Netflix and Duolingo for Netflix again, is Duolingo has its own following on TikTok.
Sure.
And so there is this really big following that they have, seven figures following there for this character, their owl, right? And so, to a certain extent, this is not just a licensing deal and an advertising deal, I think, but also an influencer deal for the owl. And I think you'll see a lot more of this. So, if you look at the last year and you look at uh, uh, Kai Sanek and McDonald's, or Charlie D'Amelio and EOS, or Nara Smith and Marc Jacobs, or the work that Gap has done over the last year. I think you're going to see a lot happen in the new year between brands and creators. And I think if you want a product that I think would benefit most from the creator sphere, it's news. I
Hmm.
think news as a product, it's a big, big, big product in the creator sphere. Joe Rogan, even Alex Cooper to a certain extent, but there's a ton of podcast news, the Daily, on and on and on. And I think, in particular, the news and journalism in the United States at this moment in time and across the world could use a good influencer campaign.
It sure could.
It could use a real, like, let's see creators and influencers using the news
Hmm.
a bit more, not opining on it,
Yeah.
but learning something from the news on an ongoing basis. So I'd love to see ABC News or ProPublica or BBC lean into creators and influencers and do a branded campaign for the news, for information, for fact.
Hmm. I love that idea. Haven't heard that one before, but I think good likelihood of it happening, and I
I
think
don't
it
know about that. Yeah.
it could it could be successful. All right, should we go to our trivia?
Sure.
First one is guess that company. The company was founded in 2006. They're currently focused on building the media company for the AI era, in their words, and they acquired the Huffington Post in 2020.
BuzzFeed.
It would be BuzzFeed. All right, we're one for one. Okay, second one. Two truths and a lie. Tell me which one is the lie. As of December 2024, the Trade Desk had a higher valuation than Reddit. 18 to 29-year-old Americans consume more political news through podcasts than TV. And Roku generated $1 billion in revenue in Q3 of 2024.
I think I think two is a lie or not true.
It would be number two. So, a little background for the audience. When I was thinking about a second trivia question, I go, this guy has so much information that he presents. I want to see if I can trip him up with.
Yeah, it was a trick question because there is a data point that I've used recently, which is 18 to 29-year-olds get more news from social media
Yeah.
than from television, a lot more, like four times as much, but not podcasts. I mean, it may be podcasts, but I don't have data to support that. And of the other two, I knew those were both true, so it was literally process of elimination.
Well, there you go. Evan, it was a pleasure to have you on, and thank you for coming on and recapping the weekend news in a little bit of a unique way.
Thank you. It was great to be on.
All right, Evan, we'll speak soon.
Yeah,
All right,
take it
bye.
easy.